Rob and I are going to do some Q&A that is chock full of phrases common to Q&A. A nice little practice for you to get used to some Q&A. I did not write this, so I can't take credit for it. I got this at a seminar somewhere before. So, untimed, we're just going to do it relatively quickly so that you have an opportunity to practice some of these briefs and phrases. Okay, it'll be a little bit long. Ready? Question. Before the accident and after the accident, I imagine that you had read the memorandum and memoranda about the subject we have been discussing, which is the suspect in this particular cause of action. As far as you can recall, and insofar as you remember, are you able to tell us about the autos, the automobile, or automobiles? In the photos and photographs, we have observed a 2004, a 2005, a 2006, and a 2007. In your estimation, your best estimate, is that correct?
Insofar and inasmuch as I can recall, there was a 2006, a 2007, and a 2008 and 2009 automobile. The three subjects or suspects were identified in the memorandum and memoranda which I received in 2010 from your organization. The memorandum organizes the 2006, 2007, 2008, and 2009 vehicles systematically.
Before the information becomes stale, did the state of Illinois issue you a driver's license when you say you presented identification to the police officer at the scene of the accident? Which license or driver's license did you present to him? Was it your legal license or the one that you have admitted was an illegal and improper driver's license?
It was my legal license, the driver's license I received from the state of Illinois. I received that driver's license in 2008 or 2009. I don't remember exactly. It may have been even 2007 or 2006. But when the Chicago police officer and his fellow officers arrived at the scene of the accident, they requested my identification. I proved my identity by producing my identification card immediately.
I call your attention, draw your attention to the claim by the complainant that you had drunk alcoholic beverages, that you may have been intoxicated with alcohol. You have little leverage because of the coverage given to this accident after the accident. So given your little leverage as an average person, did you drink alcohol beverages as described in the coverage of this collision at the intersection where Ranch and Hemp Streets intersect?
Well, as I recall, I had not ingested any alcohol, no alcoholic beverages, regardless of what the coverage of this collision described, even though I have no leverage in a case like this as an average citizen. The coverage after the accident was quite unfair in relation to the use of alcoholic beverages. I am just an average person. I don't have any connections with personnel in the legal system, so I have no leverage in defending myself, and I have received very little coverage.
At the present time, I want to ask you about your intent at the time of the accident. Whether you intended to proceed into the intersection, what your intention was as you traveled from the preceding intersection, and then proceeded to where Ranch intersects with Hemp Street. Can you describe for us, give us a description of what your intention was, what you intended to do, and what was your intent? And after the accident, did the physician prescribe something, give you a prescription, or subscribe you to a subscription at that particular time?
Initially, let me give you my initial impression to this unusual problem. Regarding my intention, I intended initially to speak to my brother-in-law and sisters-in-law about that. In usual circumstances, I usually speak in a usual way. My father-in-law said that he intends to speak to my brothers-in-law about their intention and what they intended to do before the accident regarding the inability to report this incident to the Secretary of State. I think they were unable to report this in some regards because of their inability to describe their specific intentions. To respond to your other interrogatory, the physician did prescribe physical therapy. He gave me a prescription for medication after I described my condition and gave a description of my physical symptoms.
Let's move beyond that at this time. Discuss between the lines and behind the topics that I have arranged for your advantage in that previous question, the questions that I have previously asked you. Will you tell us, or can you tell us, about the transcript that the court reporter prepared, the preparation of the transcription, in addition to the subscription, and description that we alluded to beforehand? Did she begin the transcript with the transcription begun, or do you know when she began it?
And my response to that is that I cannot be specifically responsive to it as you have arranged the question to my advantage as you described it, as you gave the description. I couldn't have had an opportunity at any time to read the court reporter's transcript, her transcription, how she prepared the transcript, her preparation of the transcript initially. All of the information informs us between the lines, beyond the scope, and behind the original questions that I was given responsibility for. I do know, however, that the transcript was begun a week ago. I can't begin to tell you whether she began it before that.
Do you remember that during the previous deposition you were deposed previously concerning questions of fact that you were certain of, certainly, almost certain, as you have been prepared as a deponent by your counsel?
As far as well as soon as, and as possible as, I am certain that I can answer as well as anyone else, and I acknowledge that during the previously reported deposition, I was prepared by my attorney before I was deposed, as happens in all depositions.
I want to change my examination emphasis to a discussion of miscellaneous topics which are covered or have coverage. That is, we want to discuss the subject of optimism, pessimism, racism, and sarcasm, in addition to their psychological, neurological, pathological, and sociological effects on what we have anticipated for years, our anticipation of the recovery plan as it relates to revolvers. Can you recover your revolvers or make a professional recovery of your revolver as required by your profession?
I appreciate your emphasis, have great appreciation for what you have emphasized today as far as optimism, racism, pessimism, and sarcasm are concerned, and how it affects their psychological, neurological, sociological, and pathological effect on our anticipation of the recovery plan, how we anticipate it will relate to our revolvers as we make a professional recovery as required by my profession.
Let's continue with this emphasis of final consonant rules as we present a continuation presentation in relationship to superstitious, delicious, ambitious, precious, and voracious. We will compare these to initial side rules which are involved with words such as interstate, internal, interoffice, interpersonal, intrastate, and intramural. I hope that we have not superseded your superstitions or your superstitious ability to supervise all other superpowers as we are able to do so efficiently.
Bearing in mind that I have covered this previously, have given it sufficient coverage at another time sufficiently, I am very solid in my knowledge of using and the use of delicious, precious, superstitious, and voracious. I have regularly used internal, interoffice, interstate, intramural, interpersonal, and interstate from time to time. I have no superstitions and have never been superstitious about my ability to supervise all other superpowers in an efficient way.
I must have advised you that we have advanced to an exercise covering words such as uniform, universe, university, universal, universal, and union, and the equally important portion of our theory that covers such words as occupy, occupation, suspect, respect, inspect, and inspection. Do you recall our having discussed this variety of terminology?
I recall very well learning the outlines for universe, uniform, university, union, and universal, as well as occupation, occupy, respect, inspect, suspect, and inspection.
Are you able to examine this section, or were you able to perform an examination of words such as bankrupt or bankruptcy, or can we assist you by giving you assistance in remembering these words, as we recommend in our earlier recommendation? As you may recall, these terms were introduced during committee meetings in 2000, 2002, 2004, 2006, 2008, and 2010, as well as I can recall at this point.
I have performed a very careful examination of terminology such as bankruptcy and bankrupt, and I always have paid very close attention to these words as your committee recommended during the committee meetings that were held in 2001, 2003, 2005, 2007, and 2009.